Okay.
Okay, okay, great. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Cheney?
Here.
Trustee Foster?
Here.
Mayor Newhart?
Here.
Trustee Calora?
Here.
Trustee McKnight?
Here.
Stephen Gaba via Zoom?
You wait.
Oh, I
Uh-oh.
can't hear.
Hold on.
That's my, I think that's my phone.
I guess he must have seen us.
Steve,
stand
can you
up.
hear? Oh, wait. We're muted. Steve, are you present?
I am present. You
Oh.
were muted, my dear.
I know, I'm so sorry. Okay, we just began.
Okay.
Okay, roll call. Oh, you did, okay, so, can I have a motion to accept the minutes of November 20th, December 4th, and December 18th, 2023, and January 2nd, 2024?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And a motion to accept the following reports, December 2023, Clerk's Office, Justice Department, Department of Public Works, and Building Department.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And a motion for authorization to pay all approved and audited claims. What's that number? In the amount of $232,337.72.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do not have Chief Rader here this evening, but we'll move on to a public hearing. And Raina, if you could please read the public notice.
Please take notice that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick will hold a public hearing on the 16th day of January 2024 at 7:30 p.m. at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, on a proposed local law number 1 of the year 2024 entitled A Local Law to Amend the Village Code by Enacting a New Chapter 60 entitled Community Choice Aggregation Program. The purpose of this local law is to promote public health, safety, and welfare by establishing a community choice aggregate program, allowing village residents to incur lower utility costs. A copy of the proposed local law is on file in the office of the village clerk and is available for inspection by interested persons during village clerk's business hours. And the proposed local law has also been posted on the village's website, www.villageofwarwick.org. The village board at the above date, time, and place hear all persons interested in the subject matter hereof. Persons may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the board must be received by the board at or prior to the public hearing.
Very good. Okay. Board members, anybody like to make a comment?
I want to hear from the public.
Okay, very good. So let's open it up. If you'd like to comment on this proposal or this law, please address the board. Give us your name and also your address.
Okay, so
Oh,
I'm Michael Helm, and I live at 70 Steepy Valley Road. And I'm really in favor of the community choice aggregation. In the past, the village has worked with Sustainable Warwick on community solar, and we find that I don't usually get caught up like this when I'm trying to speak. Sorry.
it's okay.
It's
Take-
okay.
Take your
We're like all
time.
staring at you
Yeah.
too. So look away.
So we have, we've done community solar, and people are really interested, but then they go home and they don't really sign up. A couple years ago, at Sustainable Warwick, we had a presentation on community choice aggregation. There was an elderly lady from the Liberty Green Apartments who had said she really wanted to do clean energy, and for her granddaughter, she thought she should do this. She ended up signing up for something like 16 cents a kilowatt hour. And for people like that, if the village went ahead with making the default electric service a green energy but at a much lower price, it would really be a good deal. So I hope you will act on behalf of that kind of citizen. And my third point is, I think more than 80% of electric customers don't take the time to figure out how ESCOs work and figure out how to sign up for one that could save them money. And people are too busy. People have too many things to do. People don't want to stop and figure that out. So I think this is a wonderful thing for elected officials to take responsibility for and figure out, well, you know, what can we do and what's best, and basically give everybody one more option on their electricity. So thank you very much for undertaking this law and considering it. And
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Michael.
you.
Thank you.
Scott Brown, 29 Gordon Terrace in the Village. I've addressed this topic before, but I wanted to come for the public hearing and be on the record with a bit of a concern. Even in the way this resolution is stated, the purpose says village residents to incur lower utility costs, period. But in the code section, purpose and authority, it ends, eligible consumers will have the opportunity to lower their overall energy costs, spur clean energy innovation and investment, improve customer choice and value, and to help protect the environment. So I'm not arguing with any of those as potential goals. I think all of those are laudable. But I think they may inherently come into conflict with one another, those goals, that is. So I'm here to ask that as this program moves forward, I assume we'll be looking at this very seriously, hopefully passing the law, that the process for balancing among those goals, lower costs versus clean energy, if the clean energy is more expensive, how is that going to be dealt with? And what's the outcome? How are we going to assess the desire of the community as a whole? And when we do come to a resolution, there's more information in the law about advisory panel, and obviously you as a legislative body will act on contracts. But I think that transparency is going to be really important in terms of making sure that the community understands how the choices were arrived at, because it isn't our individual choice anymore if we're not opting out. It's your choice, or it's some combination of the committee and the contractor who's going to execute the plan, and you as the legislators. So I think it's very, very important that you look carefully at how that balance is made, who is making that choice, and how it's communicated to the community.
Thank you.
That's great feedback.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Jeff Howard, 65 Colonial Avenue. And let me pick up on something Scott said. I think what you're doing is trying to assess the community as a whole. And one of the things I think that is really powerful in this thing, everybody has something they're doing right now, okay? This is going to be a change for everybody. It promises certain things that may or may not be delivered. As I understand it, the opt-out option is right there. Anytime you want to opt out, go back to what you had, it's there. So unless someone says, I don't want to go back to what I had, and I don't want anything new, I don't see them having something to complain about. I think this opens up options. A lot of people, they have these vague feelings, oh, I should do something, environmental sustainability, this is important, but I'm a busy person and I don't get around to doing it. I think this approach takes the whole community, puts them in a place that you have determined, and I think you're right, is a better place for this aggregation, and they have the button that they can push. So I really think this is, if someone's objectives are not met, okay, they have an easy solution. And as I understand it, it really is easy. You know, it's, I don't know if it's an email or a phone call or a button you push, but, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can, would it help for us to provide a little overview of the program or how it works or anything?
Tom, do you want to
Isn't there?
take a stab at that?
Is there anybody
Yeah,
else
is
that wants to?
there any
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
comments or?
Yeah. Any more comments from the public? So, Tom, you're on.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, and I really do appreciate the feedback, is that this is a program that is being pushed by the state, and there have been quite a few municipalities who have come before us who've gone down that road, and we've tried to learn from what their experience has been. So my understanding is there's a heavy dose of community outreach provided by whichever administrator we will pick. We've had one in here, we've talked to them, that was Jewel Power. There are several other approved ones out there. But the administrator will reach out to as many people as they can in different ways, right? Just to make sure people understand, well, first of all, to set expectations. And I would challenge the word promises, Jeff, as you mentioned, because I don't think any of those things are promises, but shows that here are the potential benefits of doing this. And to let everyone know they do have an option to opt out, right? But to also try to just give a balanced view into what are the benefits, what are some of the things you might want to keep an eye on, that if you are going to opt out, here are the things you should think about. So this, what we have with this resolution now, or there's a public hearing, right, in favor to start this with a resolution, that's what kicks off the process. That doesn't commit us to anything. It just kicks off the process, and we have this administrator who go off and start doing this education, doing this work, and at the end of the day, they're going to negotiate with not just our municipalities, you know, with our number, 6,700 people or so here, but they'll have other municipalities, and the larger group they get together, there's greater purchasing power. And the idea is they're going to go see what kind of deal they can strike, and we have the ability to determine whether or not that's good for the residents, right? So it's going to be, I think, a pretty, I don't know how drawn out, it'll certainly be months, right? But the educational kind of foundation, I think, is key, right? Because everyone wants to know a bit more. And my understanding is that's really how this program is structured.
Good.
Any thoughts, questions?
Yeah, and just, I mean, the whole idea is that it results in energy savings for residents. So I think that's the intention of the board. And so if the bids come in and they don't represent an energy savings, I don't see them moving forward. But the idea is to provide the opportunity to potentially realize significant savings.
On the flip side of that, Westchester County right now is in a bit of a turmoil because the 2-year contracts that a lot of the communities entered into, you can buy it on the market right now at much less than what those communities are paying for. It's going to be interesting to see how many people opt out. I think it's going to be incumbent on us to make sure that the public, our residents, are aware of what's going on at all times, and you know, we afford them the ease of opportunity to get out of it. But then what happens at the end of that 2-year period when we've lost maybe 30 or 40% of the residents of the village? And then is the next contract that we see going to be as favorable as the previous one, because we've got fewer involved parties?
I would address that by saying that for some of the leaders I've talked to in these other municipalities, is that you look at what have been the savings over the period that they've been doing it. So there are some months where it'll certainly be down. Other months, it might be higher, but you kind of, you take those into account, right? So the idea is, yes, if we can save every resident a couple bucks a month and really have everyone using hydroelectric power from upstate New York, it's a net positive thing. But part of that expectation setting is say, there may be some months that you're paying attention to the kilowatt hours, it might tick up slightly, right? Given some of the macro variables at play. But if you look at it, and this is why I've asked Jewel for, can you give us a sense of, give us the data, how other municipalities
Yeah.
in New York State have experienced this, the savings, right? And I think you'll see that on, as far as I'm aware, it's all been net positive, but there will be, in terms of savings, but there will be some months where it goes the opposite direction. So you have to kind of do the math and balance that out. So I'm kind of curious about, when you mentioned the Westchester County, is it, particular municipalities that you had in mind?
I think, I'm trying to remember who I was speaking to, but I believe Hastings-on-Hudson was part of the group that was in that precarious position at the time. And again, to your point, you've got to look at it over the period of time. I think that, we're going to have the ability to do that over the next months that we're going to be looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about this process here is this is authorizing us to begin all of those investigative processes. So this is not encumbering, as the board has stated.
Or committing,
Committing the village to anything. It's enabling us the authority to begin that investigative process, which I think will need to be really thorough.
And there's no requirement for a public hearing at any other point in the process than right now. In other words, the board can go through its deliberations, have discussions, but there's no requirement in the law to have a public hearing prior to us entering into a contract. We would have to bring it as a motion before the board, clearly, and which would, provide opportunity for public comment, but not a formal public hearing. Which is not to say that we can't have,
We can still
we
do
can't
one.
have a public information session and receive comments.
I think that there would be a number of those. I mean, I think that's our goal, is, to have.
Well, as much exposure we can give this process, I think benefits the residents of the
Everyone,
village.
Absolutely.
Harry, if I could, on that, what generally happens is assuming the board enacts this, you're going to start investigating what type of a program you might want to enter into. Aggregate buying power is important, but there are other factors too. And when you decide on who it is you're going to want to go with and what the program's going to look like, the board's going to have something of a rollout, and you're going to have them in to discuss in open session in front of everyone. This is what the program consists of. These are the terms. This is how long it's going to last. These are what we anticipate as the cost to be. These are the benefits of whether it's green energy or whatever it is you wind up going with. And people will be able to ask questions, at that type of thing. And, I'm sure the board will prominently note that this is something that's on its agenda. And I don't know that you need a separate public hearing if you're going to have that type of a rollout. But certainly if the board wanted to, you could, notice, like you said, it would be really more of an information session than it would be a public hearing. But this is going to be something that's transparent and very well vetted before the board acts on it. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
We had a couple hands up. So, Jeff, did you have something?
Actually, it's been covered.
Been covered. Michael?
If I could ask a clarifying question, isn't it that when you sign up, you get a fixed rate for the period? And so it's not that the residents who signed up, that their rates are going to go up. Their rates are going to stay even. It's just that the rate from Orange and Rockland might at certain times go below the rate. So
Correct.
it's not that the rate would
That's
go
right.
up on anybody. It's just
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
correct.
This would enable, so we would be partnering with other municipalities and we would receive bids because of that economies of scale that would provide a steady energy rate. And then an analysis, we would have to do the analysis to determine how much of a savings that would mean. How much could we project that savings would mean for residents? And then if it's substantial enough, then that's something that we would want to move forward with. But you're right, because your rate goes like this, and what this does is it stabilizes the rate. And hopefully at a lower over that period.
And Jeff?
Yeah, I think an important part of the public information is that the number of municipalities that this has already been put in place, and the number of years it's put in place, is a kind of track record of, yes, there have been some dips and everything else, but the long-term view or the long-term results within reason speak for themselves. And I think that's very powerful. And I think that does pre-address the question of, shit, it might go down 1 month. So,
Right. If someone's myopically focused on a particular month where the market rate is lower than what our fixed rate is, you can certainly have those discussions. But I think, yeah, when you look at the bigger picture, there's over 150 municipalities in New York State who have gone through this.
Yes.
2/3 of Westchester has already done it. There's a handful in Orange County already. So I agree there's a track record, but these administrators, they'll say there's no guarantee of savings. However, here's the track record, and this is how it's performed.
And I think that's very honest laying out of information.
Yeah.
And, and part of the education is for people to understand, you're still paying Origin Rock, you get the same exact O&R bill. That doesn't change. They're just the delivery mechanism. But the source of the power is what would change.
The source and how it's bundled, basically, correct? So what I would like, because of the inclement weather, is to keep this public hearing open till the next meeting. If that's,
I agree. Give people a chance to even write in or come to the next one.
yeah.
So move, I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing at our next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Okay.
don't,
Whoop.
I'm just letting you know, just in case you want to fly out
Okay.
in a trip.
And off the record, I just want to say thank you. This is really what leadership does and should do. And really,
Well, that's on the record, so be it. Okay.
Correspondence.
So, under correspondence, we have a letter from our Recreation Director, Ron Interini, making a request to change the age eligibility for employment for the Village of Warwick Summer Recreation Program. Currently, the minimum age is 16, and he proposes to change it to make it 15-year-old eligible. And I can understand why, because hiring does present challenges in this day and age. And the wonderful thing is that he does have almost a mentoring program along the way with the older kids actually becoming counselors. So I think that this would really work well with that. So, Board, I just want to hear back from you. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea. It all comes down to, even with 16-year-olds, vetting them, making good hiring decisions, getting them the training that they need to be able to be effective, and then supervising them when they're there. So I don't see it as a big ask. And I did notice that he said that they begin to, on the website, begin to look for, advertise for employment in mid-January. And I was just wondering if we couldn't craft a motion, even though one isn't on the agenda, in support of this. Steve, do we need a motion?
yeah.
Yes, you need a motion. I'm a little uncomfortable just doing it in a loose fashion like that. I'd like you to reach out to your labor council. I believe it has to be a waiver to hire 15-year-olds. And it's the type of thing that you're gonna wanna incorporate into whatever it is you do to approve this. So if I could suggest, just put it over to your next meeting, I'm sure we can have a written resolution in place for that.
Thank you for the guidance.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll reach out to Mr. King
This is civil service.
Oh, okay.
in civil service too.
Civil service.
Yeah, boy. Okay. So next year, 2025. Okay, very good. So we'll move on to discussion, and Raina,
Raina.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm looking at Raina.
I don't mind being confused with Raina.
Harley, do you want to guide us?
Yeah, I think it's about to come up. I thought it was working earlier. The purpose of this discussion is to talk about the scope and also update folks on where we're at for the RAISE application. Yeah, I think I had shared this with the board. Board can also see that.
Can you see this?
These are not beautiful slides. I just added some extra information in because I thought it would be helpful. Just a little bit of background on the program. This is a transportation fund. It is a nationally competitive program. The amount of possible funding for any given project is $25 million maximum. There's a $1 million minimum for rural areas. And 50% of the funding, there's $1.5 billion available nationally. 50% of that has to go toward rural projects. And also, cost share is not required for a rural project. And the funding can be available for both capital and planning related projects. They do have to be related to surface transportation. Yep, don't trip.
Nope, I'll be okay.
You know this background, so I'll just
Yes.
cruise. And that includes pedestrian and bicycle mobility. And just a couple notes about dates. The funding has to kind of be moving forward or be fully obligated by September of 2028. And then it has to be fully expended by 2033, which nothing that we'll be talking about, I think, should be a problem for that. And they are looking to really kind of address, at the same time that they're addressing surface transportation related issues, the merit criteria covers safety, which should mean kind of like injury and crash and loss of life reduction, environmental sustainability, quality of life, community connectivity, economic competitiveness, state of good repair, and so on. And they do want to know that your projects are ready to go. So it can't just be kind of like an idea pie in the sky. They need to know that you've done some pre-work on this. So just a little bit of context, we did submit for this program last year, and we were highly recommended for funding, which was exciting considering that this was our first time applying. We were ultimately unsuccessful. We had, one of the other things that they do consider is geographic proximity, and we had a very close neighbor that also was very closely affiliated with one of our elected officials at the correctional level. That, not salty about that at all.
Not at all.
That won the award. So we're hoping that we have a really good shot this year because we did do so well last year, and those guys just got funded, so they're probably not going to be trying to get more funding this year, hopefully. And so some of the things that I really want to talk about with the board today are, should we go ahead and resubmit basically the same scope? There have been some things that we've done over the course of the last year that I think we should discuss. We can probably talk about on the side is kind of if we are resubmitting or at least resubmitting some of it, do we, to what extent do we want to escalate or modify our costs? So that's something that we'll have to look at. Yep. And then there are a couple key activities that might affect this decision, and I can just kind of talk about those as we go. But we submitted, we had also submitted for funding under Safe Streets for All, in June, and so the same kind of rhythm is going to pick up, which is pretty good. That these grants kind of fall on each other's heels. So if we don't get one, we can go after the other. They're different, but we did receive a partial and very exciting award under Safe Streets for All. But one of the things that we had submitted for was implementation funding for sidewalk-related improvements, and so we actually have a debrief with them to talk about why we didn't get that construction money. On I think the 22nd or 23rd, sometime next week. So that will be good insight because that information could inform this application.
What was the amount of that award?
The actual federal share was $406,000. Yeah. So we received funding through Safe Streets for All for the transportation, the townwide transportation safety action plan. So we had involved the other communities in that, and then also for the Slow Down Warwick campaign and demonstration projects, which I think will be really exciting, and that will get us another speed detector too. And then just a couple other key considerations. But I really think the bulk of this conversation is going to be about the scope and also some of the work that has taken place. So just for more detailed context, what we included in last year's application was complete design for West Street. So we asked for money to do that. Oh, sorry, there's also another factor at play here where we had also applied for, if we just put a pin in this, we had also applied for technical support through the Thriving Communities program, which is a program that enables us to essentially receive free engineering and planning related support for transportation projects. And we were notified today that we're in the final runnings for that. And so that's also super exciting because if we're not successful for any of these elements, like those are things that, we could potentially get support with. So we are like the raptors attacking the fences in Jurassic Park here, like just looking for a weakness. We're going to break through and we're going to get this stuff funded. So also we had submitted a request for complete streets design support for Galloway Road, planning and conceptual design support for the South Street extension, and we had also included the State Route 94 multi-use trail, and so we have a note on that as well to discuss. Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the overlap between Safe Streets for All, which we didn't get everything, we got some things, right, and the RAISE grant, one commonality is really the sidewalk accessibility improvements, and I think for some of the money we got for Safe Streets for All, it's for getting the project to be shovel ready, right? But then that's also in the RAISE grant is some of those similar planning activities.
We actually didn't. So we had included those activities in Safe Streets for All, but what we actually received funding for doesn't overlap at all with the Safe Streets for All application.
It's like they knew.
It's like they knew, I don't know. But so I'm just sort of, and then finally we had included a scope for planning related to long-term sidewalk stuff. But since that point in time, we've actually, and actually this is a visual of kind of the geographic extents of these projects. But
hold on, before you go on, that's an interesting point, right? So, if we keep the scope the same in RAISE, and some of that would be planning for sidewalk accessibility improvements, but again, going back, I think that if we go back for Safe Streets for All, right, the next round, that'll be an overlap there. So do you think it's maybe if we get the RAISE grant with the sidewalk planning, right, we'll be in position then for this other grant, the Safe Streets for All, to kind of apply for construction funding?
So this is an area that we've actually made significant advancements. So some of what we were looking for funding to support us, and so I've highlighted the items here where there have been advancements that we also need to talk about, and I'll jump to number 5. So we had asked for money to do a condition assessment of the sidewalks and prioritize and cost what it would take to improve key sidewalks that had gotten, high on that priority list. And then also evaluate the policy of how these things are going to be funded
Yeah.
and maintained moving forward. We went through the assessment and the costing and the prioritization process already. So that piece of scope has been effectively completed.
And also we have an inventory.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so that's been done.
That's been conducted since that application was submitted.
Yeah, so since that got submitted, because this was submitted in February, and then the interns came on board in the summer, and so that was, and thank you very so much for like leading the charge on that. Work closely with the interns to kind of get that assessment completed, and then we were able to take and carry the results of that into our application for Safe Streets for All. So that's what we're looking to get feedback on, is why we didn't get that money. So we could still include some policy work there, but I think there's an argument for us to go after the construction funding for that. The piece that I just want to flag is that would require a benefit cost analysis, and so I wanted to see if maybe the county planning folks might be willing to provide some technical support on that.
We can ask.
We can ask,
The
yeah.
worst they can say is no.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to go out and find somebody to do it for us.
Yeah, or we would just be working to try to figure it out again, yeah. Or maybe HDR again, or somebody like that could provide limited support, because a lot of what, if we are going to submit a lot of what we submitted last year, that all of that has been reviewed, right? And so the escalation process, so that would kind of like limit that scope even more. A couple other items of advancement. So we have not been able to advance West Street, but we have had some advancement in collaboration with New York State DOT, and we do know that they are going to be building sidewalks up to South Street now. So that means that that portion of that planning project is, if, I don't know how secure that is, but if that is secure, then that limits that scope a little bit. And what we could do with that information is we could use the budget to advance the design further. So that's something for consideration. State Route 94, we did receive a $50,000 grant to conduct a feasibility study for that multi-use trail. And a question I have is about the timing of like when we would have to use that, because we would find out about this grant in June. And so we could potentially, if we could have this grant pick up where that leaves off, or potentially match that.
Did I hear correctly that the state's going to do the sidewalk from Lawrence to South Street?
Correct, yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, not, well,
From Oakland.
From Oakland to South Street.
Right. Well, that was
were
already
gonna go
kind of
to
the plan,
Lawrence.
but they were going to stop right at Lawrence and leave.
No,
one
they
block.
weren't even gonna stop at
We were
Lawrence.
stopping at Clinton.
Oh, Clinton. Okay.
Oh, I thought they had said Lawrence, but
So you got them 2 extra blocks.
yeah,
And a pedestrian bridge.
Right.
yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
They really need to be going to Forester. But
We're working it,
We'll
No,
talk to
so-
you about that later.
we're working it.
Anyway, sorry. Keep going.
One block at a
You're on a roll,
time.
Carly.
But that's exciting, right? So, so that's a good, and that's just a testament to the
I'm
work of the
sorry,
village.
So you're saying that work then will help in our reapplication for raise because we're moving it further along.
Well, it changes the scope a little bit. It changes what we're asking for, because we don't need that
A little bit more
portion.
targeted. Yeah,
We don't
okay.
need that work done.
Yeah.
I know this is taking a long time, but,
It's great.
and then also just a couple, obviously we've advanced some other things. And during our last meeting where we talked about the scope, we had also talked about this dial-a-bus scope. But just based on the way this, and for those in the audience, the dial-a-bus scope is, we are looking to kind of expand the services that the dial-a-bus provides potentially, and kind of
Rebrand.
rebrand the dial-a-bus. Would you like to talk about that scope?
No, it's okay. You're
Oh,
covering
oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah. That's great.
So it would rebrand the Dial-A-Bus, it would help market the Dial-A-Bus, and then increase the number of stops. And we have scoped that, we've costed it out, we've scheduled it out, so we have all of this information. It's just it's not gonna be as good of a fit for Ray's, I think.
But it would be a good fit for the DRI
And Safe Streets for All,
and Safe
Yeah.
Streets for All.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
So we've done the work in that
Or
application.
just get the county to do it for us with
Ooh,
the county money. So.
Which
okay.
is so exciting.
That's exciting.
So we've got a lot of
Options.
pots of gold to reach into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've done that work, right?
Yeah,
So we
it's
can
all
pick that up and
scoped.
drop it over to another.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, actually, the way that it's scoped, you could drop it into an RFP if you wanted, you
Right.
know. So those are that's kind of like where we've gone so far, and so I did go ahead and this is, if we didn't change our scopes associated with design and the design projects. Those are at the top. Those costs are, they total $2.5 million. And if we take the pedestrian zone improvements, which are basically the sidewalk improvements for the top priority sidewalks based on the assessment, we could expand or contract that. But what we submitted under Safe Streets for All was 1.3 million. And so then that would be a close to a $4 million ask.
What did they ding us on? Innovation or something like that? That's the one area they said that they wish
Was
we
it?
had a stronger response. I think it was.
Yeah, I have to go look. Yeah,
something
it
like
was.
that. So we're gonna figure out and look at other successful applications. What did they do that was
Innovative.
innovative?
I think we did get some ideas from them, but it was highly recommended. So it was in the top tier of applications.
So why did we kind of put the threshold at $4 million?
It doesn't have to be. Yeah, so what I did here, and I can show you. These are the. Actually, you know what? Let me open.
I was just because
While we're talking, I'll
it's
open
it's
something
heavily
else.
weighted towards design, but that doesn't get things done necessarily constructed, and so I was just, I mean, even if we decided to remove one of the design projects in order to add more construction, it might be a better approach to the reviewer, because they're going to see that it's going to get done rather than doing design work for something that may or may not get funded in the future. If you can combine the
I
two.
recall that they were funding a lot more planning than actual.
I remember
construction.
that, you're right, I remember that being something that they were looking for, but
And unfortunately, so the monies that we get from Safe Streets for All, none of those projects will be, for the planning side of it, will be done in time for this application to kind of apply in the construction stuff. So it's
The factor, so the reason is and this is why I think the sidewalks could be the opportunity, is for both Rays and Safe Streets for All, there are heavy considerations around technical feasibility. They have to do an environmental risk assessment, they do a technical capacity assessment, they do a financial completeness assessment, and you have to have a benefit cost analysis. So if we had sort of if we had the designs, for example, for those projects a little bit further along, and we had benefit cost analyses and had maybe done some preliminary environmental investigations, then they would be really strong. And so what we're actually applying for is to get us to the construction, to be able to pursue the construction money. But that's like my concern last year, which is kind of my remaining concern this year, is that if our projects are not kind of in that space where they're ready to go and we have the benefit cost analyses, then we won't get the money. But the sidewalks don't require like permitting. They don't require all of this extra stuff. I do think kind of like right sizing that scope, would be important, you know, and demonstrating that we're ready. And so, what we had done for Safe Streets for All is we had picked those sidewalks that had scored a certain amount based on like pedestrian trafficking, presence of, you know, hospitals, schools, businesses, things like that. And that's what got us to that one point.
And the other thing I kind of picked up on, and I know we faced this when we did the other Safe Streets grant, and that was easements, that the costs for easements, did we have those defined? Because in looking at the amount for legal, it just didn't seem to be enough, and then there didn't seem to be a cost in there for actually paying for easements if we needed to.
Yeah. Yeah. Because actually what we were doing is all of these, none of these represent new sidewalks.
Oh, okay.
It's like,
Right.
it's all places where we had,
Pre-existing.
pre-existing sidewalks, yeah. So then we wouldn't be, and it would get them up to ADA.
Yep.
So these were the places that had scored 3 on the importance level, so roads with schools, parks, hospitals, or major businesses, and then needed to be brought to ADA accessibility standards and were ready for replacement. And so that was kind of the selection there. But I think if we have interns right now, do we?
No,
Well,
You're gone,
they're
right?
gone
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's the
but-
last
Oh,
day.
okay.
She's in the watermelon part.
It's gonna do tonight.
Yeah. I can kind of fast forward to that. Yeah, I think I have
I mean, if we needed to, and we felt there was a purpose to be served, we could contact SUNY Orange and see if any of the students in their engineering program might be available to work part-time while they're going to school.
I think that would be
That's a good idea.
definitely a good idea.
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you have a contact there? You do? Okay. Do you want to
Sure.
knock on that door?
Maybe you and I can talk a little bit about what we want them
Yeah.
to do so
Yeah.
that can be presented at that time.
And I mean, I have some data. I feel like the pedestrian improvements, if we were doing like a benefit cost analysis on flood risk reduction or even crash safety, I think I've got that on lockdown. But I'm still very much learning in this like pedestrian space, and so would need some additional expertise.
Do you need engineering
Well, we have the
support?
we have the costs, so it might be helpful to have someone else helping to review the technical capacity and just making sure that we're in a space if we wanted to pursue the construction funding for the sidewalks in particular. And I think it is smart to divide because they actually have the ability. And for folks on the screen, what's on the screen is like the excerpt of the scope that was provided in the Safe Streets for All. I don't know that anybody really needs to read that, but
Which one, Carly? This one?
oh yeah, just on the screen I had excerpted what did we say last year about the RAISE application, and then you know what we said in the sidewalk one, and we could probably post this. It's fine. I forget what I was gonna say. Shucks. It would be helpful to just have somebody to help with this piece if we do decide to pursue. Oh, because the reviewers, they can decide what they're gonna fund and what they're not gonna fund, right? So they could go in and say, we're gonna fund your design projects, but we're not gonna do your construction project. Or they could do and so I think having that delineation is really good. And we do know that the design projects you know, we did great last year. And the spirit of the sidewalk project is in perfect alignment with what we did last year. We
That's
just
right.
have this additional kind of technical piece that I'm concerned about.
Okay.
But I've already started working on the, you know, looking at the scopes. Much of the merit criteria is the same. And so we also have all of those letters of support. And so I think we could use the same letters of support. We just need, unless we wanted to re-up them, in which case we would reach out to the same exact people. So I think maybe that's just a side conversation for us to have. But we have, I think we could use the same letters of support. Yeah. Oh, we need a letter of commitment from the village that they're willing. And you could just use this same language, but maybe enhance it a little bit, talking about all of the work that we've done. Because since that time, we also published Way to Go Warwick.
Right.
You know, we've done a huge amount of work
Yeah.
on this front. So, yeah.
So the letter of commitment, do you have the,
What was done
Em-
last year?
or the email just requesting it? I mean, usually they'll say, we would like a letter of commitment from,
Oh, it's part of the.
oh, it's part,
It's just part of the application
Okay,
package.
okay,
Like
okay.
the requirements.
oh, I see, okay.
Yeah. And actually, I don't know what happened to it, but I can pull up here, I can show you the application requirements. It's identical to last year.
Okay.
Where we have we're only allowed 5 pages for the project description. And 5 pages to describe the budget, and then we have merit criteria, 15 pages, and then project readiness. And so, you know, adding in the construction pieces, that would
Right.
require some management. And then we can attach appendices, which I've been working on those.
Right. If you need help with layout and spacing and maneuvering things in, I can help you out.
I was confusing the letter of commitment because the EDC.
Thriving communities too.
Right, well, and also the EDC wanted a letter of commitment, once we received the funds, that we had the funds to match it, or from the town and from the village for the, multi-use trail, so. it was-
Great. So that's,
Okay,
any feedback on?
I think we're pretty good with the scope, just gotta refine it a little bit here and there and kind of maybe update the verbiage about some of the work we have done to make it more compelling, so you and I can work on that again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But is everyone else, any other thoughts on the main projects kind of listed is in terms of, I mean, we were close last time, right?
know.
So
Yeah, you don't want to mess
if we
with
can
it too much.
incrementally improve
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it would be amazing, combined with the DOT project,
Yeah.
yeah.
so there's a debrief,
For Safe Streets
When-
for All.
oh, that's for
that?
the other one, okay. right.
Yeah, but I was thinking that whatever we learn from that about why they didn't select our implementation projects.
We can,
You can apply to.
Yeah.
are they the same people who are
It's the same
reviewing this?
federal program, but they're going to be different. I mean, it's the same federal department. It's both USDOT, but they're different people, I think, in the mix.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
They're gonna know you by first name.
I know.
They already do,
Not a bad thing.
Great.
and that's good. Okay, so, thank you, Carly.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We'll move on to comments from the floor. Would anybody like to address our board? Say something wise?
I'll just say something, thank you for the work that you're doing, stretching our dollars and moving toward the goals that we heard from the community in the comprehensive master plan, and keeping that sort of at the forefront and keeping it moving. Getting outside money is super exciting, even the prospect of getting outside funding. and all the extra work that's involved in that is, great job.
And, I mean, it's definitely a full board effort, yeah.
That's clear. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, we'll move.
Mayor, are we on to the public, public comment? Is that where we are?
Yes, we are,
At
yeah.
the moment? Okay. John, if, I know yours is on the agenda, do you want to speak to, or do you just want to?
Just listen to it, if there's any comments. It looked pretty straightforward, thanks, on the, I read the,
Yeah, so John Shaffron,
I don't know if I need to sign in, but, about, I'm doing that house on Ball Road.
Okay.
Looking for the water,
Yes,
well,
very good. Well, thank you for
you got it.
introducing yourself.
Yeah, no
Appreciate it.
problem.
Yeah, it's nice. Oh, there's one thing I do want to make a comment about. Planning board attorney. We are needing to go and,
Executive session?
no, I don't think it has to be. I think we need a motion to advertise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the last time when we hired a zoning board of appeals attorney, we actually sent out letters of requests to multiple firms, and we received some pretty strong responses. It was a good roster. The question is that the way we should do it again, or?
Well, we should at least do that, because that gets effective results. If we want to advertise as well, we can do that also. But
Okay.
I think, we've got a good list that we've gone by in the past. We can add to it if anyone wants to. It's a pretty simple task. It's pretty much type it out,
Yeah.
copying it, pushing a button, and it goes to the intended recipient. So.
I just don't want to, I think we need to move this along.
So, I mean, Mayor, I think we have a good list.
Okay. So,
That would be, that would be my preference, is to call them and,
okay. We're sending a letter.
Invite them to receive,
Okay.
to submit.
Okay. Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yep.
So we'll move on to motions.
Steve, what's the proper wording to waive the reading of the entire motion?
You want to even get rid of the now therefore resolved part?
No, I just don't want to read the whole thing, because I've got 3 of them. So,
Right,
for,
I was
for,
going to suggest, Barry, is
Yep.
that there be a motion in regard to the first 3 motions on the agenda to waive the reading and allow the board to act just based on the resolved clauses. And that way you would just pick up now therefore be it resolved on all 3 of them.
Okay.
You follow?
yes,
Okay, does somebody want to make that?
I'll make that motion.
Have somebody make that
Although
motion.
this one's still gonna be quite long.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Barry.
All right, first one is motion, New York State Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Lead Service Line Replacement Funds, DWSRF project number 19370, Lead Service Line Inventory, Village of Warwick, Orange County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick recognizes the New York State Department of Health has completed an evaluation for federal fiscal year 2022 bipartisan infrastructure law lead service line replacement funding through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund for the lead service line inventory, and resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick endorses and accepts the 2022 bipartisan infrastructure law lead service line replacement funding through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund for the lead service line inventory for assistance in the amount up to $575,770. Resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick recognizes the 2022 bipartisan infrastructure law lead service line replacement funding determination was based on the criteria as described in amendment number 4 to the FFY 2023 DWSRF intended use plan, and resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick authorizes the use the grant funding for the amount designated in the funding letter dated June 30th, 2023, and resolved that the village board of the Village of Warwick plan of finance for the lead service line inventory project is the BIL-LSLR grant award of up to $575,770, and resolved that the village board of the Village of Warwick designates and authorizes the mayor to sign the funding agreement and associated documents with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation.
Second.
It's a,
Roll call.
Trustee Keeney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Kolar?
yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
Second resolution is a resolution of the Village of Warwick Village Board determining that the relocation of the Maple Avenue Water Booster Station project is an unlisted action and will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. Now therefore be it resolved pursuant to and in accordance with the uncoordinated review requirements for unlisted actions in the seeker regulations, the Village of Warwick Village Board hereby confirms that the proposed project meets the criteria for classification as an unlisted action, and be it further resolved that based upon an examination of the SEAF and other available supporting information, and considering both the magnitude and importance of each relevant area of environmental concern, the Village Board makes the following findings and determinations. No significant adverse environmental impacts are noted in the SEAF for the project, and none are known to the Village Board. And the project will not have a significant adverse environmental impact and will not require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement with respect to the project. And be it further resolved that as a consequence of such determination and in compliance with the requirements of seeker and the regulations, the Village Board directs the mayor to sign and complete parts 1 and 3 of the SEAF for the project in accordance with the regulations. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Second.
Okay.
And I will contact them to correct the, they called Grant Street in the seeker documents. So
Okay.
Okay.
just the two places.
Thank you.
Okay, ready for the roll call?
Mhm.
Okay. Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Kolar?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
Resolution number 3, resolution granting permission to utilize a private well for a residence. Now therefore pursuant to Village Code 141-4B, the Village Board does hereby find and determine as follows. 1, that the applicant has established severe hardship and uniqueness of circumstances warranting grant of permission to utilize a private well to provide potable water to the dwelling on the said property. The location of the property on a town roadway and in relation to the location of the nearest water mains makes it impracticable to provide water service to the property through the village's currently existing central municipal water system. 2, that it is in the best interests of the village to grant permission to utilize a private well to provide potable water to the dwelling on said property. The village has no plans to extend its mains nearer to the subject property. The expense and likelihood of infrastructure problems such as leaks over time attendant on having the property owner run an extremely long lateral to its property would present undue oversight administrative problems for the village. 3, the permission is hereby granted to install a private well to provide water service for a one-family residence on the property located at 57 Ball Road, subject to the following conditions. A, the use of the well shall be limited to the existing property and shall be used only for a one-family residence. B, since the said property is connected to the village sewer system, the property owners and their successors are required to have installed by the village at their cost in accordance with the schedule of fees, a water meter on the well to determine sewer usage for the purposes of billing for sewer services. C, in regard to the said water meter, the property owners shall provide access to the property by the village to check the meter, and installation of the well shall be deemed grant of a perpetual right of entry to the village for such purpose. D, there shall be no water line tap installed ahead of the meter without notification to and consent of the village. E, sewer usage at the said property must comply with all village rules and regulations. And F, The village reserves the right to revoke this grant of permission and require connection of the subject property to the village's central municipal water service if at some point in the future the village extends its water mains to a reasonably close proximity to the subject property.
Second.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Calora?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
Number 4, motion to grant permission to Village of Warwick employee Boris Rodzinski to carry over 5 vacation days.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution introducing a proposed local law to revise the village code's provision regarding film and video productions. Whereas the village board of the Village of Warwick has before it a local law entitled "A Local Law Amending the Village Code of the Village of Warwick by repealing Chapter 66 Film and Video Productions and reenacting the same with revised provisions. And whereas in order to enact the said local law, it is necessary to formally introduce it and to hold a public hearing on it. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, that the movement of this resolution does hereby introduce the proposed local law, and 2, that a public hearing on the proposed local law be set for February 5th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m., and that due notice of the same is directed to be given by publication and posting.
Second.
Okay.
Okay. Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Calora?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
I have a motion to return the planning board escrow balance of $1,475 to Todd Rosen for a site plan application requesting an accessory apartment that has been withdrawn. All invoices have been paid as per the email from village engineer Dave Getz and planning board attorney Robert Dickover.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Are we tabling this?
We are tabling this, yes. And that is the last motion. And so reports. Trustee Cheney? do you have
Yes, I have an announcement. The Christmas tree pickup, which was scheduled to conclude this week, is going to be extended for 1 week. And it's also going to allow our residents to bring any storm damaged branches up to 6 inches in diameter to the curb where you put your Christmas tree. And the village DPW will pick that up. The winds that we incurred over the weekend, I think, did quite a bit of damage. So it'll be an opportunity for homeowners to rid themselves of that debris, the branches that came down, and their Christmas trees. So have it out on the curb by 7 a.m. on the 22nd of January. I believe that's the date, yeah. And if you want, if you don't want to make that deadline, you can still bring Christmas trees to the town chip site on Public Works Drive up until the 31st of January.
Very good. Anything else? That's it. Carly?
I had mentioned that the Thriving Communities a little bit earlier, but just a little more detail about that. That's a program, it's actually a collaboration between multiple federal agencies, but HUD and USDOT as well. And if we are selected for this, we will have the opportunity to get technical assistance in the form of engineering and planning support. So that could help us bring some of these projects to a state where we could get construction funding. So we have to submit kind of a letter of commitment, and then there are a couple partners that we had identified as possible partners, and they want letters of commitment from them as well. So we'll be reaching out to them, and then those are due by January 30th, and then we'll hopefully find out soon thereafter whether we've been selected.
That's really great.
Yeah, hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully they select us.
It's wonderful.
Fun, it's
Yeah.
exciting.
Mary, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Upcoming, there will be another mental health first aid training program, which will take place. It's a two-part in-person training. That will be Tuesday, January 23rd from 5 to 8 p.m. and Wednesday from January 25th, 5 to 9 p.m. These will take place at the Warwick Valley Community Center on Hamilton Avenue. There's information to register. It's email mhfawarwick@gmail.com. And you can also find more information on the Warwick Valley Coalition Facebook page, and we can post the information as well from our Facebook. And my second announcement is 2024 marks the centennial year of the village of Greenwood Lake. They have quite a robust calendar of events coming up, which can be found at gwlcentennial.org. Their actual birthday is March 17th, which I thought was cute because I spent years taking step dancing lessons there. So I think that's very suiting for them. And they have a lot of events coming up that are specific to Greenwood Lake's history and culture, such as a speakeasy, a boxing event, a car show, an old-fashioned baseball game. And I just wanted to remind village residents, as you're looking over the calendar of events, one of the options to get there is to take the New Jersey Transit and use it as intra-Warwick travel. You can easily get from the village of Warwick to the village of Greenwood Lake on either the 196 or the 197, which Carly and I tested out. And I saw Supervisor Dwyer yesterday, and he was still kind of talking about how impressed he was that we did that. So I promised him I would try to spread the word.
Did he go
Only one way. We could check that back. So that is great. And just keep in mind they're having their big centennial, the Great Centennial Weekend, August 16th through the 18th. And that's this summer, which includes a time capsule. And my other announcement is one of the projects I've been working on has been a book, which is a compilation of local stories with our former village historian, Jean Beatty May. Previously, all these stories have been sort of oral history that has been passed down for generations through our sort of founding families. To have these in print and in one place and available to the general public, I'm really excited about. It has been such a pleasure to work with Jean Beatty May, and I've learned so many interesting things about the village, and we're in the final editing process. There's about 23 stories, tons of photos. The photos keep coming. So look for that when that's finished, which I'm sure I'll tell everyone when it's available.
Great.
And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Tom?
No report?
No report. Okay. And I have no report. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We did. So moved in second, or?
That's what I did.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, everyone, then.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Steve, yeah,
Thank you, Steve.
That worked out just fine with him on Zoom.
Yeah, maybe we
Yeah,
should keep him on
it
Zoom. Did he hear it?
Nobody put Steve in a Zoom call.
Thank you.
I'm just glad he wasn't staring at me that whole time.
Thank you, Scott.